What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple Newtype, and in this episode, we are concluding Gaia Gear. Last time, Ol took Everly after Krishna outed her as Affranche's wife. Ol takes Everly hostage while completely ignoring her. Krishna warned Affranche, but he too ignored her. This time, Affranche storms Neuschwanstein Castle. Some nukes go off, and Affranche and Ol have their final battle. So let's conclude this. Ol stuffs Everly back into the Geese. She will be crushed if Ol engages with high-speed combat, but he plans to drop her off before then. He tells her that he is taking her to see Affranche. He has no intention of hurting her, but he is a prideful man and truly intends to help her find him, even if that means using her as bait. He launches with some gooses from the Geijitsu. Messer, Ray, and Benoit move in ahead before Affranche. Messer and the Braum Texter fires sand barrels towards Ol's Geese. Ol tries to be gentle, but Everly still passes out from the G's. He returns fire, but Messer runs a beeline towards Ol. The two have a similar aggressive fighting style, and the Psychomu of both units confuse the two. Ol waits for an opening and fires on the Braum Texter. He hits the generator and the man machine flails to the ground and explodes, killing Messer. Ol heads to Neuschwanstein Castle. Baijan Dargle saw the explosion and the Braum Texter. He decides to divert his forces towards that location to prevent Metatron from moving in on Bavaria. Dargle sends out laser comms to Hong Kong Maha. Zhang Wenfu gets the orders and thinks this is foolish. Many of the people around Dargle think this is a bad strat, but he ignores them. The Hong Kong Maha forces are also overconfident, as they ultimately are leaving their flanks wide open for an attack. Benoit or Gaius heads to the top of the mountain where she watches Hong Kong Maha forces start to fumble. This is when she thinks, you know what? Affranche knows what he's doing. He's a great leader. So she decides to abandon her mission of assassinating Affranche and continues on as a regular soldier. Affranche gets a transmission that Everly is waiting for him. Luckily, he was warned by Krishna, but still, he reacts to this message poorly. The Gaia Gear Psychomu reacts as well as the man machine reaches insane amounts of G's. So much so that the Monosky barrier reacts violently to the atmosphere around it and makes it look like a glowing arrow of light soaring through the sky. Ray notices this, which distracts her from Messer's death. This causes the Geese reactors to explode, setting off many nukes, which scorches the Earth. Tamino tries to breeze past this nuclear blast like it's no big deal. Benoit uses this opportunity to take down any remaining man machine. Dargle is barking orders on the bridge of the Geijitsu. Marissa on the bridge thinks to herself, he's so mad, just like when he's in bed. See, it's weird sexy moments like this that are keeping my interest right now. Tamino still has that dog in him. Benoit and her team take down the Koilu. Their flanks were wide open. The shockwave from the blast also takes out the Geijitsu, killing Baijan Dargle. You never got to hear Wagner at Neuschwanstein Castle. Yes, suck it leitmotifs and Gesamtkunstwerk. Jazz is on the horizon anyways. The collective destruction of all the ships causes a giant nuclear explosion to go off, taking out Benoit and her team. Benoit psychically says to Affranche, now it is your turn, before she goes down. Again, Tamino is kinda just breezing past how extravagant this nuclear blast is. This doesn't just take down Benoit's team. This takes out the entire rear Metatron fleet. Miranda, Madras, Toto, all wiped out in this instant. Tamino chooses to show this from the perspective of Benoit, a character who's barely been in this story, which makes the characters you spent more time with underlooked and underappreciated. And you don't even realize it happens until Affranche reflects at the end. I don't know what Tamino was going for here. Ray is suicidal, but this ultimately just made her a better pilot, taking down 3 man machines no problem. She is then hit. The Geese pilot is highly skilled. She fakes injury to get the Geese to come closer. Once close, she pulls out her beam saber. The pilot is Zhang Wenfu. The two have a beam saber battle, but Zhang Wenfu gets the upper hand. He slices through the cockpit, seriously injuring Ray. But Ray is saved by Affranche, who destroys the Geese. Ray is in agonizing pain. She says, if I live just to lose an arm or a leg, I'm gonna be so pissed. As she retreats, she hears a transmission from Ol. She decides to engage even though her man machine is barely hanging in there. Ray curses Affranche for saving her back there. As she moves in on Ol, so too does Affranche engage from above. Ol takes down Ray swiftly and focuses his attention on Affranche. Ray wanted a swift death, but she is still alive and slowly bleeding out instead. Ol is certain he is superior to Affranche. He stabs the Gaia Gear with his beam saber, but it is an afterimage. The real Gaia Gear stabs Ol, who is distracted, vaporizing him instantly. Affranche says, forgive me, Ol, before he dies. There is some reflection here on how the end goal of war is nothingness. It is an erasure, but it's a shallow reflection and Tamino doesn't really do anything with this thought. Affranche is convinced that Everly wasn't on board his man-machine. He thinks she is at the castle. He finds Ray's lifeless man-machine. Affranche lands, but Ray isn't there. She happens to be on an upper level. Ray tells Affranche that she found Everly. Ol purposefully kept her safe. Ray's pilot suit is soaked in blood and bodily fluids. What fluids? Affranche tries to help her, but she tells him not to bother. She says she wants to join Messer. He goes to find Everly. He shines his flashlight to find a barely conscious Everly. The two embrace. Ray smells the ocean and passes away. Affranche is fishing with Everly nearby. The sun is setting, though the colors of the sky suggest that contamination on Earth is still at an all-time high. Everly is pregnant and starting to show. As they head back, Affranche hears the ticking in his head. Remember the ticking in his head that seemed like it would play into the story, and then disappeared for most of the story? Well, it just represented the yearning inside of him. That's a little disappointing. Affranche is concerned for the baby's health along with whether or not they will have food for the winter. His struggles have never been harder, but he feels happy. The two cross the Irish Sea and abandon Gaia Gear. She tells Affranche about her journey from Hong Kong to England. A journey that might have been cool in the novel, but you just get a retrospective glimpse of it, I guess. Affranche feels guilt for his comrades. They find an abandoned hut and settle down. He is burdened by the sacrifices his comrades made. He asks Miranda if this will be it for him. Oh yeah, Miranda's dead. And that will conclude our coverage of Gaia Gear. The main focus of this story is about identity versus destiny. Affranche Char is a clone of the Red Comet in the hopes that he will become the second coming. But Affranche has the identity of an Asian island boy trapped inside an Anglo-Saxon body. He is hypersensitive and can be considered a Newtype, but he isn't Char. He is a leader, which is something that even Char ran away from his entire life. In many ways, he might be better than Char, but being an individual means one can reject this, and Affranche eventually does reject this life. Affranche is best when he is struggling with nature. The clicking in his mind was a call to action which drives Char. In the end, he decides to ignore the call and accept his life with Everly, something he couldn't do at the beginning of the story, and something Char could never do. This core theme is solid, but everything else around this story is on rocky grounds. We see the continuing theme from Hathaway's Flash of environmentalism and the Federation elites taking advantage of the world for their own needs. The poor get sent off planet while the rich and powerful use Earth like a sandals resort. So in comes a new anti-Federation organization called Metatron. But the problem comes in the ending, where Metatron also didn't have problems destroying ships which set off nuclear reactors, which in turn scorched the Earth. No one seems to care of the Earth ultimately. They are all ideologically driven by the end anyways. The first two volumes had me on my toes as Tamino really leaned into pushing race issues, specifically Maha being a tool for white supremacy. Tamino makes you think that those first 200 years of people attempting controlism was all for nothing, which is such a cool direction to take this universe. But then he ultimately does nothing with it. It didn't really drive the characters. Even Dargle was focused on Wagner over supremacy at the end of this novel. Pride cometh and all that jazz. I wish Tamino kept the same energy he had in Volume 1 and 2 going on in Volumes 3, 4, and 5. Once Affranche assumed control of Metatron, the story lost a lot of momentum. I don't really understand Krishna's character. Ultimately, she comes off very petty. Lala learned that even with human understanding, two people can't change the circumstances of war. Krishna feels like a step backwards, though she does remind me of Katagina a little bit. I don't think Katagina was written by this point either. The man-machines are amazing in terms of design, but they serve absolutely no purpose in terms of the story. Affranche has an understanding of man-machines, but unlike our heroes from the past, Affranche doesn't love man-machines. That's kind of the point of his character, but I feel that love is what's missing in our protagonist. Outside of the core theme of identity, this novel really doesn't do it for me like it seems to do for a lot of you guys out there. We do see in this novel one long-running theme that we see throughout all of Universal Century, and that is the Federation always moves forward, no matter what. But here's the thing, Tamino believes that space exploration isn't possible no matter how much we advanced in technology, because we still struggle to solve the human problem. By Tamino's own logic, the age of Universal Century is destined to fall, which is kind of why I like the direction of G-Savior. The Federation needs to fall. Even Tolkien wrote Middle-earth to ultimately fall in the end. Tamino can't seem to kill his own children, or in this case, giant global federal government. At least the novels still have the awkward sexual moments that make Tamino Tamino. But what do you think about Gaia Gear? Do you think this is the direction that Universal Century should go? Let me know in the comments. But that will do it for now, Newtypes. Remember, how can you hate G-Savior? Look at Mark's stupid face. How can you hate this? Peace.